Hey there, welcome to Laird Wellness Live. It's like we haven't done this in a while or something. Oh my goodness, don't even have the logo on. There we go. Okay. Wow. All right. Okay. Welcome to Laird Wellness Live. Something funny happened and we won't tell you what it was. Anyway, it's just ridiculous. Anyhow. Should you tell him?
No.
Okay, don't tell him. Okay, it's funny. We're just sitting here laughing about it. Hoping you're having a good time as much as we are. Anyway, we're going to talk about dioxins. Not very funny, but anyway.
Yes.
So unless you've been hiding under a rock for the last few weeks, you know there was a big spill in Ohio. And people will say, well, it wasn't such a big deal, that spill. We're sitting here differently, so I'm kind of struggling as to how to sit. Anyway, to be square on the camera. Anyhow, so it wasn't the fact that there was vinyl chloride in that rail car or in those rail cars that became such the big deal. What became a big deal was the fact that they burned it. And when they burned it, okay, it creates the big cloud of smoke. Everybody goes, oh, big deal. It's just a bunch of chemicals. It'll just blow away. Well, the problem is when they burned the vinyl chloride, they created something called dioxins. And dioxins are among the most toxic thing on the planet. Way worse than asbestos. Way worse than, heavy metals. So if you're worried about heavy metals and pulling those out of your body, consider what dioxins would do. They are seriously one of the most toxic chemicals on the earth. And what was released in that fire, that deliberately set fire, which makes it so ridiculous,
right,
was what some are calling the largest plume of dioxins ever released on the face of the earth. And they say, well, why is that such a big thing? It was just one little fire in one little place in America. Well, because it is so toxic that this stuff, you have like the lifetime exposure you're supposed to have to this stuff is 1/32,000th of a grain of salt.
Oh boy.
Like that. It's not, it's really, really, really small.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, we're going to get into that in just a little bit here and show you what it is and how do you detox and all this kind of stuff. Fortunately, the detox is actually quite simple. Now that's ironic because when the dioxins are released, they bind to the fat cells of animals. That's why it's so bad. So yes, it falls on the grass. Yes, it falls in the water. Yes, it kills the fish. It kills the fish because guess what? So when the dioxins combine with, there's chlorine as part of this, this molecule. So what happens is when it's burned, so the vinyl chloride itself is toxic, but it's not that bad. When you burn it, okay, now you create a problem. And then it combines with the air, and the moisture in the air basically turns to hydrochloric acid. So this is why the fish are dying in the streams close to East Palestine. And of course, those streams feed into the Mississippi River.
Right.
And the Mississippi River feeds into the Gulf. So what are we going to see a month or two down the line here? Is everything going to start dying towards the Gulf of Mexico? And then what? Like it's a real disaster. And you might think, well, big deal. I don't live in Ohio. I don't live in Pennsylvania. I don't live in New York. So what's the big deal? Well, you go out to dinner tonight. Do you know where that steak was raised that you're eating? Was it in Ohio? Right now, it's okay. What about 6 months from now? That cow that's eating that grass, remember what we said about dioxins? They accumulate in the fat, and that moves up the food chain. What's the end of the food chain? You.
Right.
So it builds up, and then it ends up the most concentrated in your fat. Now you got a problem. Like we said, fortunately, you can detox from this. But how bad is it going to get? And when we build up toxins, that's why, okay, for example, so when you build up toxins through the food chain, that's why you want to eat smaller animals, going up the food chain. For example, fish oil, right? That's why they make fish oil. Now, cod liver oil is something different, right? That's what we promote, and that's what we always push instead of just regular fish oil. But regular fish oil is made with sardines and mackerel, little fish, because as you go up the food chain, right, more toxins. So you want less toxins and you use more of those little fish to make the fish oil. So that's why this is such a crazy thing. It's going to build up, and a lot of people aren't going to pay attention to it because right now what they're doing these theatrics of going into people's homes and drinking a glass of water out of their tap and ha, no big problem here. Yeah, well, do you know what you just drank? Maybe that's going to cause cancer 10 years down the road. You don't know. So some people are saying that East Palestine is basically America's Chernobyl. There's nothing you can do about this town. It has to be leveled. This soot with the dioxins is everywhere, on everything. And it's pretty much like, what's happening now in America. We're seeing that happened in Chernobyl. Cover up, no big deal. So while the government is panicking behind the doors, going, what do we do about this? On the cameras, they're going, no big deal. We'll drink the water out of somebody's tap. And so really, though, they're panicking about this. Yeah. Because what really needs to happen is what happened to another town in Missouri. It was a lake town in Missouri. I forget the name of it. But anyway, this was in the 80s, I believe. And what they did was, dirt roads. We lived in a lot of dirt roads in Saskatchewan. Correct. Just fun fact, I think there's more dirt roads in Saskatchewan than any other place per capita in the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, because there's so many what they call grid roads. So they go around everybody's farms, right? So, and it's like a grid, right? Yeah. So that's why they call them grid roads. Anyway, so they were spraying, what's common is you spray oil on the grid roads, like used, not oil you can use for anything else, but just like spent engine oil. And you spray that on the roads to keep the dust down. And sometimes they use water or whatever. But back in the 80s, it was more common to use oil. So they sprayed this oil on these Missouri roads around this one lake town. And it was discovered that there was dioxins in these oils, in the oil on the roads. As a result, they had to move everybody out of the town, level it. And the government reclaimed the land and paid everybody off to make it a national park that basically no one's allowed into. So just sort of gave it back to nature and said, step away.
Wow.
So why are they not doing this with East Palestine? That place needs to be leveled, left alone. It's like Chernobyl. You see the eerie pictures of Chernobyl with, the kids' playgrounds just empty, swinging in the wind. Nobody there. It's like a ghost town.
Right.
It's kind of what has to happen here. So in the meantime, you might say, well, I don't live there, whatever. Now I got to watch out for my steak. Yeah, you got to watch out for your steak. Got to watch out for the foods. We all have to be careful now. It's Mike Adams, the health ranger, almost said it's almost like you have to determine what was pre-Palestine and post-Palestine. This is now a definitive marker in our history. What are we going to do about this? So let's just go through this. What is a dioxin? We're going to show you several images here and show you some good news because there are some very, very cheap ways to detox if you find that. Now, testing for dioxins is very hard to do. It's not something we can do. No. It's not something even people with, mass spec microscopes can do. Not anything much you can do. So you just have to say, okay, this is one of those things we have to detox from. We know it's there. And you know what? To that end, other governments that aren't so careful about their environmental policies, and they don't have the media that's screaming to the world, look what happened in our backyard, like China, for example. Right? They're not going to say much, but how much plastic is created in China? How many fires have happened with that, the vinyl chloride chemicals that they've burned off, and we've just never heard about it. So this may be more widespread than we think. And could that explain the rise in cancers around the world? That could be one of those, contributing factors that nobody thinks about. Right. So anyway, just some things to think about there. So basically, what is this? What exactly happened? So there, in the area of East Palestine, there's a couple who lives there, and they reported to someone asking questions about this. And it just so happened that this, the woman, the wife, is a lab tech, a clinical lab tech. So she knew what she was talking about. Okay. So here is her quote. We're going to read in the yellow first of all. So she says basically when it heats up, that is vinyl chloride, it turns to chloride. When it rains, it turns to acid. So there's your hydrochloric acid. There could be, as she says further in that quote, there could be tens of thousands of compounds that this has turned into, and you just don't know what you are dealing with. Wow, that's comforting. Now in the blue, the main chemical of concern here is dioxins, which were created by the vinyl chloride combustion process. Yeah, like we explained, right? and are in the area's air, water, soil, and homes. They are expected to make their way into the crops and livestock the people eat. Thus, the steak at Ruth's Chris the next time you go, you better ask where that thing was raised. They move easily through the environment and were likely deposited on surrounding agricultural land as well. So not just East Palestine. These chemicals are known carcinogens, as we also explained already, and endocrine disruptors. What's an endocrine disruptor? So your endocrine system is your hormonal system. Could that mean thyroid issues? Could that mean thyroid cancer? Could that mean all kinds of bizarre things happening with your hormones? As if we don't have enough hormone confusion these days. This could be making it worse. In fact, okay, so think about this. Think about the correlations here. We don't have to get right down to the molecule, which we are going to do in a little bit here. But, this is basically the makings of plastic, right? Mm-hmm. Polyvinyl chloride, PVC. That's the pipes you buy at Lowe's and Home Depot, right? Yeah. So these were ingredients to make polyvinyl chloride. Vinyl chloride itself is a monovinyl chloride. There you go. And so if you think of, okay, well, this is plastic. Where was I going with this? I don't know where I was. I got so much on a rabbit trail, I wasn't sure where I was going with this. So plastics, yes. Okay, this is what. So they were saying that plastics in the water. Alex Jones is famous for making this quote, making the frogs gay. Right. Well, it wasn't making them gay. What it was making, it was basically creating double sexual organs in frogs. That's what plastics can do. So if these dioxins, which are, you see where I'm going with this? They're in the process of making plastics, and it gets in the air, and it's an endocrine disruptor. And endocrine is your hormonal system. You see how that can maybe cause some confusion, or maybe at least some infertility. And that is specifically what dioxins are bad for, is infertility and cancer. So look for infertility and maybe even uterine cancer, maybe more cervical cancer, maybe more testicle cancer, that type of stuff.
Right.
So yeah, this is nasty stuff. So we really have to watch out for it. So now, speaking of getting down to the molecule, let's take a look at this. The science of dioxins. There is the actual molecule diagram on the right. This is how it is made up. Now see how those four pieces of chlorine, the atoms of chlorine are on the outside four corners? Mm-hmm. That kind of looks like, if you look at it, it almost looks like a building. Like if you were to build a long castle, right? And you have the turrets on the end, right? Mm-hmm. Well, what are the turrets for? They protect the castle. Okay, keep that in mind. What does the chlorine do? It's protecting that molecule. So let's think about that for a minute. So dioxins are a family of compounds that share distinct chemical structures and characteristics. Numerous dioxin-like compounds have been identified that are considered to have significant toxicity and can cause disease. The singular term dioxin refers to the most toxic compound, TCDD. Now, that has been not widely spread, but some folks are talking about that particular molecule. And yes, TCDD was released during that fire, the worst one. So it's called 2378 TCDD. These terms are all still relatively new to me. So 2378 TCDD. And the 2378, if you want to look this up online, they use commas between the numbers. That's right. Not just one solid number. It's 2, 3, 7, 8 hyphen TCDD. That's what you look up. And I would just do that. 2378 TCDD Ohio train derailment and see what you find. You may have to use DuckDuckGo or Brave that Jodi uses, or some other browser that is going to actually let you find something. But anyway, that is what's happening here. And like we said, it's causing cancer. So why is it so bad? It's so bad because it doesn't degrade. Remember what we said about those chlorine atoms on the edges, kind of like turrets on a castle?
Yep.
So those protect the molecule. It is considered a forever, quote unquote, toxin. It doesn't break down. I mean, its half-life, if you look at how half-life works, you're looking at 500 years. When's the last time we heard of something you can't go near it because You're just not going to break down for 500 years. That sounds like Chernobyl, does it not?
Yeah, wow.
Like basically, we have to leave this place alone for until all the rest of us are gone, and future generations are gone. So, wow. I mean, what are we really dealing with here? So, hopefully we'll know before everybody starts getting some awful diseases. But anyway, let's take a look at the molecule that we just looked at. We saw the diagram, so let's explain it and why it is so bad. So this is a quote from Mike Adams, who's looked into this. He is a food scientist. He looks at toxins in foods, specifically glyphosate, which is Roundup and other things of this nature. So he's looking at this stuff all the time. He's a scientist. So this is a quote from him about dioxins. He says, "Nothing comes close to the toxicity of dioxins. And what scientists have come to realize is that there is literally no safe level of exposure." Now, in the yellow, even if you're exposed to 1/4,000,000th
Wow.
of a gram, you've seen how impossible it is to picture $1 trillion, for example. They show it on the, a diagram of $1 bills stacked up in a football field, and it fills the whole dang thing. Well, imagine a 1/4,000,000th of a gram. You will suffer negative effects. Now, in the blue, right before the blue, they are also called the perfect poison. They simply don't degrade and have chlorine atoms on the four corners, right? If you're looking at a diagram of the molecule, these chlorine atoms make this thing armored so that nothing can come in and mess with the molecule. Let's take a look at that molecule again. There you go. So these are the turrets on the castle. They are protecting the molecule. That's why it's so bad. That's why nothing can penetrate it. So, sheesh. This is one of those things that's not going to go away. Wow. So what's the best thing you can do? I mean, obviously, even if you ingest it, you can't break it down. If the earth itself can't break it down, you can't break it down. So what are we going to do here? So the best you can do is gather it and get rid of it.
Okay.
Right? Flush it down the toilet and let some other organism get infected with it, I guess. I don't know. But so what we need to do that is we need to detox, right? So how are we going to detox? Well, there are some methods we're going to talk about here that are chelators. What's a chelator? If you've watched this before, you may have heard this term. So a chelate comes from it's a Greek term that means claw. So if you can picture, chelating means grabbing and pulling away. Now this is what glyphosate does. Glyphosate, which is Roundup, on the negative side of things is a chelator. It chelates nutrients. Some other things chelate toxins and pull them away. It's really kind of a good guy, bad guy type of thing. So glyphosate will get rid of the good guy. It's a bad chelator. So it grabs toxins and pulls them away. That's how it kills the weeds. So when you spray Roundup on the weeds, what it's doing is it is chelating nutrients from the weed so that the weed dies.
Got it.
It starves it to death. So on the flip side, what chelators do on the natural side of things, on the healthy side of things, is they will grab toxins and do the same thing, pull them out and get rid of them. So, strangely enough, one of the easiest things and cheapest things you can do is get this, activated charcoal.
Okay.
How about that? Okay, so let's read about that. Excuse me. In the aftermath of the East Palestine, Ohio train derailment, many, like you and I, are looking for answers to the dioxin release problem. And, in the yellow, activated charcoal is one such answer that in tests was found to enhance excretion of dioxins from the body. How does it do that? One word. Boop.
Boop.
That's how. All right. That's not like that 2378 TCDD. This is just simply POOP. That's what that is.
Okay.
The solution to TCDD is POOP. In the blue, the contaminated mice in this study excreted much more of the TCDD than they did without the supplement, which was administered daily to the mice for 16 days. Okay, so they did this test with mice, and that is what they found. And speaking of mice, okay, so, animals are already dying of this thing. So this is how serious it is, right? There's been reported there's this number floating around, 43,000 animals have died. This kind of sounds like the the numbers we heard of a certain ailment that was floating around for the last 3 years.
Right.
If you looked at certain points of time, by the way, during that whole pandemic, is that the numbers of people who had died in different cities was all the same. Two people have died of, and it was all over the place. It's like on the same day. It's like, wait a minute, this is planned. This is a setup. But anyway, so 43,000 animals have died. But some will say, okay, great, that's 43,000 that you can account for. How many tens of thousands have not been even reported? Right. So how bad is this? I mean, the fish. Did you count the fish floating down the stream as they were floating on top of the water and dead? Like, how can you count exactly 43,000?
I did see some people on screens on other kinds of media talking too about yelling basically at the reporters saying our kids are getting sick. Why is everybody getting sick?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So kids playing on playgrounds and touching stuff.
Yeah, and they, cold-like symptoms, that kind of thing. But nonetheless, there's some pretty upset people there.
Well, and to explain what this is like, do you remember back in the 80s, Jodi, there was this whole problem with, I'm not sure if it was 80s or not, but I do remember the issue. The toxic shock syndrome from women using tampons.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That was because of dioxins.
Oh, interesting.
Because of the bleach used on the tampon.
Wow.
And that's what gave the toxic shock. It
Interesting.
wasn't that the tampon absorbed so well that it hurt people. It was the chlorine.
Wow.
In the tampon.
So that's why they advertise nowadays these tampons that are without chlorine, not bleached.
No
blah, blah.
bleached paper and that kind of stuff. Yeah, exactly. Excuse
Wow.
me. So that's a little bit of a clue of what dioxins can do. So anyway, that's where we're going with this. So speaking of which, okay, if that causes endocrine disruptions, and where are we, we're putting tampons right where fertility happens. So how bad is that? Wow, I just thought of that as we're talking about it. Okay, so these are some things you can do. The charcoal, right? We already mentioned that. So here's the study that we just read about with the mice. So there's this coated activated charcoal enhances fecal excretion poop of 2378 TCDD in mice with fewer side effects than uncoated. See, so uncoated, here's the difference here. The coated versus uncoated charcoal. So the uncoated charcoal can cause cholesterol to come down drastically. So if you got high cholesterol, you may want to consider charcoal, by the way. So
what do you mean by uncoated?
This what we saw in the I can't even pronounce what it said there. Hang on, let's take another look here. It is the alginate coated activated charcoal.
So you mean some charcoal is just like a powder, and then some come in a pill form that is
it's coated. Yeah.
So the coated is better for.
Enhances fecal excretion with fewer side effects than the uncoated, because the side effect, it does the same thing, but the side effects were number one, you get constipated. So that's not good. So if you get constipated, though, what do? Just drink more water, and that kind of loosens things up. But it also causes a drastic drop in cholesterol, and what they call hypocholesterolemia. So that can happen. So if you want that to happen, great. But if you can't afford that to happen, you don't have enough cholesterol, don't risk that. So anyway, because you'll reduce the delivery of nutrients to your cells, because that's what cholesterol does, right? So that's what charcoal does. It collects those things and binds them. Charcoal is great for when you're feeling ill, if you're nauseous. So if you're feeling nauseous, take some charcoal, and what that does is it basically absorbs the toxins, pulls it away from your stomach. Now you don't feel nauseous anymore, and down the tube it goes. So that's why the cholesterol, I keep saying that now. Charcoal was so important.
Yeah. So
let's take a look at another one here. There's a second study that found kind of the same thing. Check this. So sequestering, putting away of the 2378 TCDD by activated carbon, which is basically charcoal, eliminates the bioavailability and suppression of immune function in mice. So eliminates the bioavailability. So basically it takes it disables your body from absorbing it, is what it does.
Okay.
So basically, yeah, it basically takes it away from your body, and you can't absorb it. And the suppression of immune function in mice. So how about that? And then here is another piece of that information from the study itself. These reports suggest the premise that activated carbon, charcoal, can be used to reduce the bioeffective dose of, as if you wanted to dose yourself with that TCDD, delivered to mammals. So if you ingest it or whatever, so it'll pull it away from you. And that activated carbon amendments may provide a low-cost alternative to traditional remediation technologies. So in other words, you don't have to buy an expensive drug, just take some cheap charcoal.
Wow.
How about that?
That's great.
That's pretty cool. So that's one of these remedies. Now, the other one is a compound found in cruciferous vegetables called I3C, indole 3 carbinol. And it's found especially in the sprouts, because think about it. A broccoli sprout has to contain all of the nutrients necessary to support the development of an entire stalk of broccoli.
Right.
And if you have, and that's just one little sprout. So if you got all these sprouts in a little container, imagine how powerful that is.
Right.
So broccoli sprouts are especially effective at this type of thing. But any kind of cruciferous vegetables are good. They do the same type of thing. They basically cleanse the body. So that's what we want to do. They also have something called sulforaphane. So TCDD, we said it was cancer causing, right?
Right.
Well, we've talked about before, this was a long time ago, probably in the summer, that sulforaphane found in broccoli is like an internal sunscreen. It basically protects your skin from the sun's rays.
Okay. Yep.
Because it doesn't protect, it's not like a sunscreen. What it does is it basically it eliminates the effect. It counteracts the effect of what the sun does to your skin. So your skin gets all inflamed. Sulforaphane comes in and calms down that inflammation so as to cause an anti-cancer effect. So if TCDD, this dioxin, is cancer-causing, you need something that is anti-cancer. Guess what? Sulforaphane in broccoli, which is a cruciferous vegetable. So there you go.
Great.
Very, very simple. So here is something about that IC33. There's three things we want to, or I3C. There are three things that we want to read here in the purple. Indole 3 carbinol, produced by the decomposition of indole 3 methyl glucosinolate. Glucosinolate, yep, I pronounced it right. Is widely found in many cruciferous vegetables. So basically eat them, the decomposition. So yes. So when they are digesting, this happens. Okay, why couldn't they just say that? Such as collard greens, Brussels sprouts, kale, broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, and turnip. Okay, very good. In the yellow, I3C is involved in inducing apoptosis and inhibiting cell cycle progression and tumor proliferation. So apoptosis is programmed cell death. So that cancer is basically cells out of control. They don't stop growing. So this basically tells cells when to die at their appropriate time so they don't get out of control. And in the blue, recent studies have shown that consuming broccoli can effectively prevent the occurrence of cancer owing to high I3C content in broccoli. How about that? Pretty darn cool. So there are two ways that you can get rid of dioxins. And the third one, especially if the charcoal that you're taking, the activated charcoal, does make you constipated.
Right.
So that's not good, because what it does is, okay, so it grabs the toxins, pulls it away, but it doesn't go anywhere. So guess what's going to happen? It's going to get reabsorbed. You don't want that.
No.
You want to get, the way you get rid of toxins is, you get them and then you have to get them out. So if you're having constipation, that prevents the POOP mechanism. So you need to increase that. And what often helps with that, well, magnesium is a way you can do that.
True.
That's one way you can do. I'm just thinking of all these different ways. So magnesium is a way you could do it. You could also do barley max. Barley max is a barley grass powder. It's just the juice, not the whole grass. So it's just the juice, which makes it ultra powerful. But what it does is barley grass is actually one of those chelators that we talked about before. It's a positive chelator. So it grabs toxins and pulls them away. The opposite of what Roundup does. Roundup grabs nutrients and pulls them away. So barley max combined with activated charcoal, with a meal of cabbage and Brussels sprouts, would be an awesome way to get rid of dioxins. I think. Because
And,
you're going to grab it, pull it away, and get rid of it.
I was thinking about the magnesium you talked about now. Some magnesiums don't encourage poop, which ours does not, and that's why we
There's
like
a little bit of it up in there. But
a little bit.
And not enough to make you run to the bathroom.
We are carrying a new product.
Yes, we are. Brand new product. I don't even have an image of it here.
No.
But if you go online and you look for Oxy Powder, OXY Powder, it's by a company called Global Healing. We've got 3 products up in there. So actually, if you go to lairdwellness.com and you search Global Healing, you will see the 3 that we have there. We have an amazing iodine product, which is actually called Detoxidine. There's another way to detox.
Right.
Take some iodine with all this. And what does iodine protect you from? Yeah, the big mushroom cloud.
Yeah,
right?
Radioactive
stuff. Yeah, so we have Detoxidine, we have Oxy Powder, and then Veganzyme. Ooh, this is what I'm really excited about.
Yeah, but finish with the Oxy Powder because...
Okay, go ahead.
I take that on a regular basis. I swear by that. I take...
Regular, no pun intended.
I take certain magnesium because I truly, truly like this magnesium, our magnesium that our friend Billy Weiss has made. But I also take Oxy Powder because it does have the magnesium that encourages you to go to the bathroom in a nice, very gentle way and a regular way. Especially because I have Hashimoto's. That just naturally makes you not go to the bathroom very conveniently on a regular basis. So Oxy Powder is excellent.
Yep. Yeah, and it's not so much oh my gosh, I've got to go run to the bathroom. It's like,
it makes just me
go to the bathroom, and it's like, oh, that was easy. I didn't have to put in any effort. So that kind of, if you will. So now, the Veganzyme. So vegan, well, I'm not a vegan. I don't need Veganzyme. Well, they give it a weird name. They really should have given it a different name. But Veganzyme as an enzyme. Vegan and then ZYME. And so what it is, the reason I like it so much is because it has serrapeptase and nattokinase together with some other enzymes. Now, you can use it for a digestive enzyme. But if you take it on an empty stomach, guess what? These 2, nattokinase and serrapeptase, they go after blood clots, cysts, spike proteins. They are proteolytic enzymes, which means, yes, they eat spike proteins. And using them together has a synergistic effect. What does that mean? Serrapeptase plus nattokinase is not 1 + 1 = 2. It's 1 + 1 = 3. Very, very powerful when used together. So Veganzyme is brand new on our website. I just put it up there today. We haven't even advertised it yet. So this is the first you're hearing about it.
Right.
So, and actually all 3 of those would be excellent for this detox too, right? I mean, you think about it. The Oxy Powder, the Detoxidine, and the Veganzyme, they will all help to get rid of these things.
And we have a couple more coming up soon as well, including Paratrex, which is for parasites, which we all have.
Yep. We also have a liver health product and an acid reflux product and one called the Ultimate Probiotic. So if you've been told, as we tell most of our folks, to go on more than one probiotic and kind of switch it up once in a while, we have a really excellent probiotic from Billy Weiss, our pharmacist friend. We don't disparage that at all. I mean, that is an excellent probiotic. But if you need a second one with different strains, this one's really good too. So you could switch them off. But anyway, really good stuff coming up. So anyway, there you go. There are 3 easy ways. Again, activated charcoal, cruciferous vegetables, and then barley max or any of these other things we've talked about. All the things that make you kind of go to the bathroom, the supplements make you go to the bathroom, that's what you want. But you need something to bind it first. You need a chelator, which is either barley max or activated charcoal. So you can get activated charcoal anywhere. It's a dime a dozen. So there you have it. So we hope you have enjoyed this. And if you would like to learn more from us, you can see what Keith Johnson did, by the way. You go to lairdwellness.com/Keith. Keith is a Torah teacher, if you've never heard of him. He found some amazing results, and he keeps getting better and better. He is on his 3rd week of going like... He had real troubles in the beginning because he had some sugar issues. And we kind of worked through those, and all of a sudden, in the last 3 weeks, boom, he has hit it.
Nice.
And so, yeah, watch his video. It's amazing. You will be really encouraged by what Keith has to say. And if you would like to do what Keith is doing, go here. lairdwellness.com/blood test. This is the blood test we're always talking about. The 55 biomarkers, plus we are now including 3 bonus markers. Thanks to Jodi. She says, you know what? We really need to test people for infectious things like H. pylori, Mycoplasma pneumoniae, and chlamydia antibodies. So we check those as well. No additional cost. We're just throwing those in. So make sure you do it. Go to lairdwellness.com/blood test, and we would be happy to help you out, figure out what's going on. And we won't be able to detect dioxins, but we'll take care of the rest of you. But you know you can take care of dioxins with the things we talked about tonight. So thank you for watching, and we pray you have a good week, and we will see you next time on Laird Wellness Live. Y'all have a good week. Talk to you next time.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye-bye.